Millennials of Reddit, what's the worst baby boomer advice/wisdom you've ever been offered? I was getting my master's degree, and we had a guest lecturer come in. He had been CEO of a small company for many years. He basically told us that he stumbled into the job right out of college because he didn't know what to do and gave it a shot. They gave him the assistant CEO position because he had been the assistant manager at a movie theater for a summer, and then 2 years later he became the CEO. He was basically telling this entire class of people getting their advanced degrees in the hopes to get his position that he got his job on a whim 30 years ago. Talking to my dad recently, he was going on about participation trophies. When I pointed out that we wouldn't have received said participation trophies had his generation not invented them, his response was, "Yeah, that's another problem with your generation. Always blaming your faults on other people." When I was in high school looking for a job, my grandmother told me to just go to places and fill out applications. She told me it was useless using the internet to look for a job. This was in 2008, and every place I checked for a job had an internet-based application. My first retail job, anytime I complained about customers or coworkers to my father, I would get, "You just have to suck it up. It builds character, and you'll always have something you don't like about your job or coworkers." A few years ago, he lost his help desk job, and nobody wanted to hire him on for an IT position when he's just a couple years shy of retirement age and doesn't have a degree. After a couple years of being unemployed, he realized the gig was up and took a part-time job working in a grocery store across the street from the one I had in high school. Now, whenever I go to visit him, I always hear something like, "Can you believe this bitch? Shikaton no. I just finished building a goddamn corn pyramid. Has to be 7 feet tall, and she wants one from the center on the bottom because she says she can tell those are the freshest. Can you believe it? No. Dad, not a clue at all what you're talking about, but your character sure seems to be growing. Babies just need love, not money. Sorry, Mom, no grandkids until I have a job with a decent paycheck and less student debt." My friend's dad got a fantastic job right out of college with an unrelated bachelor's degree by literally going into a random bank downtown and refusing to leave until they gave him a job. Can you even imagine? Can you? I guess I'm on the old side of the millennials, but I had numerous people tell me not to go into computer science and instead go into some other engineering field because computer scientists didn't make good money, wasn't a good job, not a good fit, etc. Glad I didn't listen to any of them, as I make a really good salary now. Why the heck would I take advice on entering a high-tech field from people who can barely use a computer? I was once told by a baby boomer, "If you want a man to stay with you, you'll have to pop out a baby," or words of that effect. I told her straight up, any man who would stay for our baby, but not for just me, isn't a man who I'd want staying in the first place. For fuck's sakes, is it really that unusual for me to want to be loved for who I am, and not for my ability to procreate? Why would I want to stay with anyone who sees me as nothing but a human incubator? The lab tech at one of the schools I teach at is a retired old fella. Comes in maybe 2 hours a day, real early in the morning, to set up apps for the day. Basically has the job for his own entertainment. One morning he caught me in the hall and somehow got into telling me how I really ought to find a job with a good pension. Apparently he worked for some commercial chemistry research lab and retired early once he qualified for their pension program. Then, him and some buddies took some of their early retirement money and bought a big parcel of land. They arranged to have it incorporated into a town that they ran, then sold off pieces of it for housing developments. So, he's going through this little history lesson in how the economy used to work, and I just stand there and nod. In the back of my head, it dawns on me, he thinks I'm an adjunct by choice. He thinks I teach part-time at 3 different schools with no advancement potential and minimal benefits because I like it. Hey boomers, the reason why us goddamn millennials aren't doing things the way you used to is that those things don't exist anymore. There's no career track jobs in science with just a milliseconds. There's no more salary for life company pensions. I can't just go buy me some land and flip it for a profit. My boss recently told me my generation was entitled and began quoting various articles on how we all think we are special and exempt from criticism etc. As I was shoveling a dead rat out of the doorway, my mother told me to just get a job. tons of places are hiring. Though, she has come to understand the struggle now as she spends all day applying to jobs and not getting a single call back. You know, your generation doesn't understand that you have to buy a house as young as possible to pay it off quickly. No, old man, we get it. We are broke as fuck, making 1/3 of what you do in the same workplace. You have to go out and pound the pavement, dear. You can't spend all day looking for jobs on the computer. I love being told, be grateful you /have/a job. Then they look on in horror as I explain that I can't afford to live on my own while working over 40 hours a week. I don't get vacations. I don't get sick days. I get absolutely no paid time off, even for shit like Christmas. No time to pursue things I enjoy. No money to see a doctor about my deteriorating jaw. But it's not their problem, you know. They get to walk away from the conversation. Don't take a job unless it gives 4 weeks vacation out of the year. Because that's what someone can get fresh from college. You don't deserve to make a livable wage at McDonald's. Get a real job. Followed by, what, are you too good to work at McDonald's? Grow up and stop being entitled and do what you gotta do. Not really advice, but my neighbor was complaining about how useless and lazy millennials are after I snowblowed their driveway today. Only, it used to be their snowblower. They misused it, broke it, and I fixed it, and I've been doing their driveway ever since. But whatever, I'm just some lazy 20-something full-time student with a job and enough time to turn wrenches in the garage. Edit, working on stuff in the garage is a hobby of mine. I like to buy motorcycles and lawnmowers etc. that don't work and fix them up. It's fun. Sometimes I make my money back and I just get to chill outside and listen to music and drink some Rolling Rocks. Pretty soon I'm gonna get a cheapo stick/arc welder and think of something really cool to do. If you wanna learn to work on stuff, honestly it's all down to having a cheap set of tools and the confidence that you can put it back together. Blind baseless confidence will do, because there's nothing you can't figure out with the internet, but having something you don't rely on, don't go rip apart your daily driver, really helps keep the pressure off. I suggest starting with basic maintenance on whatever you own, even if you don't think it needs it. Also, motorcycles, especially older ones, are so easy to work on. Edit 2. I bought a broken motorcycle because I do like to work on stuff, but the only fucking way I was getting a motorcycle into my life was as a project. Lol, that first one I picked up, a 79 CX 500 for $500 and had running at the end of the day. Way easier than I thought. Mom learned to deal with it and she still really hates it, but I haven't gotten kicked out and I have a motorcycle, so life could be worse. I graduated in 2007 and had an extremely difficult time finding a job. I was juggling 2 unpaid internships and a part-time job at a movie theater while applying to anything I could find. I spent my spare time interviewing at staffing companies that never called me back and trying not to slash my wrists. My mother would toss the newspaper at me and said, you know, I've never been unemployed, but I still read the wanteds every day. Thanks, Mom. That's super helpful. You know what kind of jobs they advertise in the newspaper? Mostly construction jobs that I'm completely unqualified for because I have no training and built like a toothpick. She refused to acknowledge that I was actively searching for a job and kept insisting that I was lazy. Just go to college. Even if you don't know what you want to do, temp agencies will get you sustainable work. Why are you looking online for jobs when there are temp agencies? Get at least a master's degree so you can be successful. Sure, a degree helps, but coming out of school with a massive amount of debt is not the greatest thing to do. My parents owned a home when they were 25 and 23. They didn't have to worry about having $40,000 in student loans. The kicker? I work for my parents and they decide my salary. They know damn well I can barely afford rent, much less a house. Also, my degree has nothing to do with my job, but I had to have it. My government teacher just told me it was hard for him to sympathize with people who have to work at McDonald's. We were talking about raising the minimum wage when he was able to put himself through college while working and studying full time. He said it was still possible for anyone that wanted to put in the work. I'd just got out of economics, where my teacher had told us it wasn't possible, and made us calculate the cost of our preferred college or trade school, and write up our financial aid options. Weird getting almost word for word contradiction that soon from two teachers. I was born in '98. I'm not sure if I'm a millennial though. Drop out of local community college and run. Don't walk to most expensive state school in the country. A degree from a community college isn't worth anything. Naturally this exchange occurred while I was working, so I hid my fuck off and die face behind a polite smile and said I would consider it. First thing you should do is always buy a house. Houses are not the surefire idiot-proof investment machine they used to be in decades past. They still think you can put on your best suit and walk right into any company, shake the CEO's hand, and look him right in the eye, and start the next day. Everything is online and entry-level positions require 3 to 5 years experience with no hope for advancement and shit benefits, if any, and below average salary. But just start a business if you can't find something. Whatever that means. Go to graduate school. Then it'll be easy to get a great job. You'll feel different when they're your own children. Yeah, I'm not willing to take that risk. Also, I'm poor. My girlfriend was instructed by her grandmother to always make a boy pay you before having sex with him. Buy a house so you can refinance it and make some money. From my aunt with a serious shopping addiction who's refinanced her house 3 times and is in serious debt. Keep working your job, you'll get a huge raise and make the same with less hours. I was 19 and had a job in mold remediation. I was working full-time during the day and was also a full-time community college student taking night classes. Sleep was shit. Information went in one ear and out the other, and half of what I did has much more work than what had been in the job description. One time I spent the day carrying 60,000 pounds of boxed kitchen tile from a company van to a client's home. I got it done in an hour without using a dolly. This was for $8.50 an hour, and 7 months in, I asked for a raise, and they bumped it up a whopping $8.75 an hour. I left about a week after I spent another week working a job in an apartment basement literally cleaning out shit. I removed toilets filled to the brine with human shit after wrapping them in trash bags for $8.50 an hour. I left the job a few months ago, have not seen employment since, and it has been the best damn thing I've ever done. Only 20 now, so I've still got plenty of time to get hit by a bus, find a better job. My mom encouraged me to walk in and give my resume to the manager at our local grocery store because seeing you face to face makes a difference, thinking it would help. I was given a physical application by a cashier, basically begged to see manager. He showed up. I gave him my resume, shook his hand. He said thank you, but looked annoyed at being interrupted and went back to work. Few weeks later they hired a new cashier. She was the cousin of one of the people that worked there. Welcome to the new job market, millennials. Dad told me when I was young that interracial relationships would never work. He said that there's a reason the blackbirds are with blackbirds and the redbirds are with the redbirds. It's just nature. I've been with my ethnically different girlfriend for a long time now. Probably the best person I've ever met.